G'day folks, welcome back to another HP Gaming GameLINK video. My name is Matt, for those of you who don't know me, and today we are going to be unboxing the 2 to 7 player social deduction game Antidote by Bellweather Games. This is one we came across at the Toy Fair, Melbourne Toy Fair in March of 2020. I hadn't heard of it before, so we picked up a couple of copies and we thought, hey, let's give it a whirl. Now, this one is a game by Dennis Hoyle with art and graphic design by Jonathan Logan Clark. It's designed for 2 to 7 players, but with the expansion you can get up to 9 players, and it is a deduction and deception game where you all play, from what I understand, you all play scientists caught in a lab where a deadly toxin has broken out, and you use the cards in your hand to maneuver your toxins around to try and discover the antidote. Clever name for the game, because at the end of the game everyone's going to be left with one card or one toxin or one antidote for the toxin, and you've got to pray to the gaming gods that the toxin that you drink or the antidote that you drink is the one that is correct for the game. So if you drink an antidote and it's blue, where the toxin is orange, you die a horrible, miserable, nasty death, which is obviously not something that anyone wants to have happen to them. So we're going to get in and have a look. It is basically a straightforward, simple card game, but the idea of the antidote being something you have to discover as the game goes on, I think really intrigues me, and that's why I wanted to see what this was all about. Plastic, as we all know, goes on the floor. That is absolutely correct. So let's have a look here. It's meant to play in about 20 to 30 minutes. Age is about 13 up, and I think it's probably solely because of the content of the game. The idea that you've got, all sorts of lab experiments going on and causing trouble. A bit of a rule book there. And I think the idea of having a lab experiment failing and obviously everyone potentially dying sort of means that you have to look at a higher age group, which is fine. Okay, so the rule book here, it looks pretty straightforward, nice and simple, easy to read instructions, talks about points towards the end of the game, number of placebos, different deck sizes based on the number of players, which is usually standard for some sort of social deduction game like this one, which is pretty straightforward. And then 2 decks of cards, and there is a player indicator as well, which I think is pretty cool, just to keep track of who's doing what. As with a lot of these style of games, there's a lot of passing and trading of cards, that's another one, the Kickstarter Psycho Chickens, which is due to arrive soon. That's going to be very much manic card throwing, which is exciting. I think it's good to have a reminder of whose turn it actually is. So they've got some proper pull tags or pull tears on these ones too, which is great. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get them open without having. No, we're going to go to the knife. That's okay. That's fine. So we've got. So from what I understand, depending on the player count, you'll deal out cards to each player. There's the my turn marker there, which is pretty straightforward, standard. But then based on that, you'll have. I mean, they've got nice card deck backs as well, which is cool. But based on the number of cards that you deal out, ultimately you trade cards, swap cards, steal cards from other players until literally you only have that one card left that we talked about. Now the cards do have slightly different coloured backs to separate them into the decks, and I believe it's because the different toxins and things that get dealt out obviously have different things on them. You've got different identity cards as well. So this one is a lead researcher of the ulcers oil, which is the green or teal, and then you've got the orange colour. So it's all colour coded as well. Just looking at it, and if I look at these, I'll grab them for you now so we can have a little bit of a look. If you look at the colours, it doesn't look like there's going to be any major issues if you're colourblind, with the exception of this green one. I think that's very clever. A lot of games don't take into consideration colour blindness when they're picking their colours for content, so I think that's really good that they've actually decided to, or whether that was a conscious choice or not, I'm not sure. But it does mean if you've got the 7 players, obviously if there is someone who's got colour blindness, you'll have to take that into consideration when you allocate cards. There are lab romance cards. So lab romance means you have to basically team up with another person and help them or hinder them, as the case may be, with their search for the antidote. I'm just going to show you some of the cards here. So you've got different lab romance cards there that we're talking about. Different names of all the different folks that are in the game. Placebo cards. Now some of the cards you discard them face down in front of you. You don't actually discard them to a discard pile. A lab assistant, that's a bit of a learn to play guide for you. So what you do on your turn, etc. That's one of the toxins. So if you've got that in your hand, you know the toxin that's hidden from the game isn't orange. So you know that you need to work to try and find an antidote for one of the others. Different cards for different things. They've got different numerical values as well. Okay. And then there's also syringes. So with a syringe, and I'll try and find one for you, with a syringe you can actually syringe a card from another player, which can potentially reveal to you some information as to the toxins that are not the toxic one that's infecting everybody. So for example, if you use a syringe on a card face down and find out that the teal toxin is there, you know the teal toxin is not the hidden card. So you know that obviously, you know, if you've got any teal antidotes in your hand, don't save those because they won't be able to help you at the end of the game. There is only a certain number of antidote cards from what I understand, so it is possible, potentially, from what I understand, to be left with one card that is not an antidote card, which would obviously leave you at a painful and disgusting, horrible death. So try and avoid that scenario at all costs. And then you've got just more of the same cards here with the different toxic things here. That's the green toxin. And then you've got to synthesize the antidote by using the cards to gene sequence the antidote or find wherever it may be. The higher powered antidote, obviously the higher point value. So if you had this serum N, which was toxic, and you had a level 1 serum antidote, that would give you protection at the end of the game. But obviously if you had a level 7 one, then it's much stronger and you'll potentially win on points if you play for points, if you play multiple. And there's one of the syringe cards I was talking about, which will basically help you, steal cards from other players and potentially help you win the game. There's not a lot to it. It's literally a deck of cards, a turn indicator and a rule book. But I think the social deduction aspect of this, it's not one versus the many like Secret Hitler or Resistance or any of those sort of games. This is very much a free-for-all, but you need to work together to come to a common goal. The key thing about this that sets it apart, I think, from other social deduction games is that you're all trying to work to the same ends, the same means. As I said, it's not one versus the many. There's not one person who's a traitor. So I think that in itself allows for unprecedented replayability because no one's on the outs, if that makes sense. And I think that's actually quite a cool way just to sort of keep the game going and keep everyone invested because you're all three of you could have the antidote and could win the game. In my research, I found that it's more common for 3 or 4 players in the larger group games to succeed and be successful, whereas it's very rare for just one person to survive. So you either get a group of people surviving or you get no one surviving, which is also possible too. So I think that's something that's interesting as well, is you can all lose the game. Now, because we love you and because we have an extra special treat for you, we like to look after our loyal fans, we're also going to be unboxing the expansion, the lab expansion for Antidote, Lab Alliance, which will basically allow you to extend the game out to 9 players, which at the moment with COVID is very, very tricky, but it's just a nice way to obviously showcase the rest of the game as well. So we're going to get straight in here. Now this one allows for extra lab romance cards as well, backstabbing lab romances as well from what I can understand. There are expansion lab cards, all sorts of other bells and whistles in here too. Allows for additional players, team play, so you can actually work together as a team, which would obviously eliminate the many versus all sort of thing, because then you've got obviously teams and it's 50-50. But I think, I don't know, I think the team aspect of this theme game where you're all trying to find the toxin or the antidote to the toxin would be very interesting in a team environment, because do you sacrifice one of your team members to ensure victory for the whole team? Needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, that sort of thing. Be very, very cool. I apologise as well if I am speaking too quickly. We've got a couple of events happening today, so I'm trying to get a few things done as quickly as we can because school holidays are on and everyone's out of the house. So I'm trying to cram as many different videos into the short space of time as I can. The rulebook is pretty straightforward. It gives you basically explanations on all the new features. Again, the breakdowns of all the different card deals, depending on how it all sort of works. That's just a thing promoting more stuff. Oh, punch outs! Love a good punch out. So these obviously adjust the values of your antidotes or serums that you're trying to do. Now they look pretty durable. Nice chipboard. Nice chipboard. Make a good noise as well, which is great. Oh, they're double-sided too. That's cool. So you've got different sides for different antidotes. Obviously, there must be some cards that obviously adjust which antidotes you use. They're very cool. I like those. Nice and straightforward. Ah, beautiful. I love it when they include baggies for the tokens. So good. So good. Brilliant. All right, so it looks like here in the expansion there are, I should say, additional players that you can add in. So obviously yellow is a new player. New lab assistant cards to help you with the extra players and explain how it all works. I should turn that around so you can see how it all works. Sorry, everyone. Lab assistant cards, and then we've got here more lab romance cards, so you can team up with people, backstabbing people. I like that aspect of the game. I think that's quite cool. Again, all for one, or is it one for all, or is it free for all? One of them. Quarantine. That's a new card that's not in the original game. Obviously, that quarantines players from them. This one, Team Anti-Venom. So if you've got team players here, looks like team cards. Team Atoms. This is all obviously for the team component of the game, so it must obviously have different goals. Truth theorem, which means you obviously have to tell the truth or show the correct card that you've been asked for. That makes it interesting, because if you've got a team game, the individual person on a team might not know what the other members of the team have, and if they have to tell the truth, either by revealing cards, it's going to really hamper down the entire team's efforts. Yeah, knowledge is power in this sort of game, and that's pretty awesome. I like that too. The Truth Serum card is a nice touch. And it looks like in this set here, in this last pack of cards, we've got more plastic on the floor, more syringe cards to add to your game. Adrenaline, which is new. Adrenaline, which is all players must immediately pass X number of cards to the player on their right, where X equals the number of adrenaline cards face up on the table. So as the game goes on, the more adrenaline that comes out, the more cards get passed around the table, and the more things can cause trouble. You've got extra unknown cards or new viral cards that go all the way up to, some of them go up to 10, I think I saw before. Yeah, 1 and 10. 9, because there's 9 players. The new toxin that's there. So there's a whole brand new series of toxins and other components as well. And another player card too, which is awesome. Beetlejuice. Not that sort of Beetlejuice, maybe. Maybe it is, I don't know. That's interesting, I like that. Don't drink the Beetlejuice unless you've got the antidote for it, and that's the toxin that's running through your veins. So there you have it, that's Antidote. Look, obviously that was a very whirlwind trip through the unboxing of both Antidote and the expansion Lab Alliance. I do like the idea of this one, as I've said, so I would like to see how this plays. So we'll try and get a group together of at least, I think 3 or 4 is probably the ideal number, 4 or 5 even, I would say. Probably more so 5 with the Lab Alliance expansion. That may take some time because obviously restrictions are being reinforced here in Victoria, Australia. But at the same time, folks, if you have comments, if you've played this one, by all means, put some information in the comments below if I've got anything wrong. If you recommend it, if you don't recommend it, please let us know. And thank you again, once again, to all of our Patreon subscribers. We love your work. If you haven't already, there is a special bonus on at the moment where if you join our Patreon, for every $1 you spend in Patreon support, you get 100 game points, which you can then use towards store orders and get lots of discounts and goodies as well. Stay tuned, plenty more to come, including our July edition of Gotcha Backer, which is coming soon as well. If you have any questions or comments, by all means, pop them down below and I'll get back to them whenever I get a chance. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we will see you back at the table very, very soon for more HP Gaming and GameLink. Once again, my name is Matt. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.